Don't scroll. What if everything you ever thought about forgiveness was wrong? I promise you've never seen a story about forgiveness quite like this before. This is the story of Joseph and his brothers, an incredible journey from betrayal to forgiveness. Let's dive into an unforgettable tale that happened in ancient Israel, with lessons we can still learn today. We begin with Joseph, the 11th son of Jacob, a man greatly favored by God. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other sons and wasn't shy about showing it. One day, Jacob gifted Joseph a beautiful, richly ornamented robe that gleamed with vibrant colors. This coat wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol of Joseph's special place in Jacob's heart. But this love came at a price. Joseph's brothers, 10 of them, were seething with envy. Why didn't their father see them in the same light? Why were they overlooked? This envy grew into bitterness, and then into hatred. And to make matters worse, God blessed Joseph with dreams, visions that seemed to suggest his family would one day bow to him. When Joseph shared these dreams, his brothers' jealousy reached a boiling point. One fateful day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were tending the flocks in a far-off field. As Joseph approached, dressed in his stunning robe, the brothers whispered venomous plots among themselves. "Here comes the dreamer. Why not kill him?" one hissed. "Throw him into a pit, and we'll tell father a wild animal devoured him." But the oldest brother, Reuben, felt a twinge of guilt. "Let's not kill him," Reuben said. "Shed no blood. Instead, throw him into this empty cistern here in the wilderness." Secretly, Reuben planned to come back and rescue Joseph later. The brothers agreed, and when Joseph came nearer, they tore the precious coat from him and threw him into the cistern, betrayed, abandoned, forsaken by his own blood. As they sat down to eat, a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by on their way to Egypt. Another brother, Judah, had a thought. "What will we gain if we kill our brother? Let's sell him to these traders instead." And so, for 20 pieces of silver, the brothers sold Joseph, their own flesh and blood, into slavery. Meanwhile, back home, they soaked Joseph's beautiful robe in goat's blood and presented it to their father, Jacob. Heartbroken, Jacob tore his clothes and mourned the loss of Joseph for days. He believed his beloved son was gone forever. Now let's fast forward a bit, down to Egypt. Joseph faced hardships and setbacks, but rose above them with faith, determination, and God's favor. Sold into the house of Potiphar, a high-ranking Egyptian official, Joseph's excellent character earned him responsibility and trust. But even in good fortune, trials followed him. When falsely accused of wrongdoing, Joseph landed in prison. Yet, even behind bars, Joseph found ways to bless others. Years later, through a miraculous turn of events, Joseph became second in command in Egypt, governor, tasked with preparing the nation for a severe famine. And just as Joseph had foretold through interpreting Pharaoh's dreams, the famine swept across the lands. The storehouses in Egypt became the lifeline for surrounding nations. Jacob sent his remaining sons to Egypt to buy grain. They had no idea that the man who stood before them, strong, wise, and adorned in royal Egyptian garments, was their long-lost brother, Joseph. Imagine that moment. The brothers, desperate for food, bowed low before Joseph, just as his dreams had prophesied years ago. But they didn't recognize him. Joseph, however, recognized them immediately. Flooded with emotion, he kept his identity hidden. Through a series of tests, he sought to see if his brothers had changed their ways. Finally, overwhelmed by their remorse and desperate pleas, Joseph could no longer keep the charade. Tears streamed down his face. "I am Joseph," he declared. "Is my father still alive?" His brothers were speechless. Fear gripped them because they expected only wrath and vengeance. But Joseph did the unthinkable. He forgave them. And not just with words, he embraced them fully. "Do not be distressed," Joseph said. "Do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." He assured them with these powerful words. Joseph arranged for his entire family to come to Egypt, providing them with the best of the land. He reunited with his father, Jacob, and together they celebrated God's providence and healing work. Now, let's unpack this. What can we learn from Joseph's story? Forgiveness is not about excusing the hurt. Joseph didn't deny his brother's betrayal. Rather, he recognized God's greater purpose in his suffering. Forgiveness allowed Joseph to replace bitterness with blessing. Maybe you're holding on to old wounds that seem impossible to heal. Consider this. Forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you. It frees you from carrying the weight of anger and the chains of resentment. When Joseph forgave, he didn't just restore his family, he also found peace within himself. So the next time you're wronged, remember Joseph. How can you let God turn your pain into purpose? Reflect, release, and rebuild. Forgiveness isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. Until next time, keep the story of Joseph in your heart. And remember, God's love and guidance can shine through even the darkest of betrayals. Share this with someone who needs to hear it and change a life today. #Bible, Jesus, God, faith, forgiveness.